NASCAR rounds out the summer by returning to the Lady in Black. We give you our best bets and DFS tiers for Darlington next on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
What's good, everyone? Welcome into the Backroad. It's In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock here with you tonight. Seth, can you believe it? The regular season is already about to come to an end. This is the last chance before the playoffs in the Cup Series for drivers to make it in.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fired the fuck up for Darlington to round out the summer here. I can't believe we're already here. It feels like this season is gone in the blink of an eye. Really missed doing the show with you last week, Elliot, but Rod and Tino did an excellent job holding down the fort, so we appreciate them. I had an awesome trip to Charlotte last weekend as well. Shout to Junior Motorsports. Had a great tour around their facility. Got to see the Dirty Mo studio and everything they got going on the Xfinity side as well. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who was showing us around, but that guy is a fucking weapon, Elliot. This guy knew everything about Dale Jr., Dale Earnhardt, the entire company, what's coming, what's going from that facility. So that was a really cool experience. Got to go down and celebrate a great wedding with some of my friends, Parker and Emily. The DJ there, best wedding DJ I've ever seen, Elliot. This guy was absolutely slinging it, throwing in some country here and there as well. And hey, we made it through Daytona, both Daytona races this season with just about a unit loss so far at those super speedways. So I'm buzzing. I'm ready to go, man. I hope you're ready to go as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All in all, that's not a bad unit loss for how crazy the super speedways can get, especially with how crazy they were this past weekend. We'll break down Daytona for you in the rear view. We'll talk about some NASCAR news. We'll look ahead to the races this weekend at Darlington, and we'll give you our best bets and our tire tiers to round out the show as well. And boy, oh boy, Daytona was so damn exciting. I think we just got to jump right in and look back in the rear view.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do, though, I just want to quick shout out the IBT family. We've had people in here for a couple hours, so I don't want to be ignorant to them like you were trying to be there. Kush was in here an hour before the program, ready to go. We appreciate you, buddy. Charles in here as well. What's up, Chuck? Good to see you as always, man. And then Marcus hanging out. Hey, Chris Bell weekend for you finally, Marcus. I know you're always in here preaching the Chris Bell gospel. So I'm with you here this weekend on that. We'll talk more about that later. Stan saying literally no one but Christopher's mom wants that to happen. if he goes for the back-to-back sweep, I'd be about it. But yeah, Elliot, as you said, now I think we should jump into the rear view. How about it?
Yeah, let's don't put that on me that I don't care about the IBT fam, but the IBT fam does come here to watch the show. So that's all I'm doing. Yeah. Just trying to progress the show. Don't get me wrong. I respect the fam. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Let's go back in the review to Daytona. I also don't want to neglect the fact that the Truck Series was at the Milwaukee Mile this weekend, where Lane Riggs finally gets his first career win there, had all that upside, and took him a little bit to get it done in the Truck Series, but he got it done. I wasn't so much watching that race. I was driving home from Woodstock in New York, but don't get me wrong, I kept an eye on Daytona because it's fucking Daytona. I'm not going to miss Daytona. Ryan Truex pulls out the win in the Xfinity Series. I'm excited for him because he finally won somewhere other than Dover. You know, good for him to put a full race together there too. And in the Cup Series, you know, I'm watching the end of this race. It's crazy. Going back and watching Lee Diffie's call later was amazing. My jaw must have been on the ground for about 90 seconds, if not more, when Harrison Burton in the 21 car finally gets the Wood Brothers their 100th win and pulls off one of the bigger upsets in probably the history of the Cup Series when you look at it. Probably on par with Trevor Bayne at Daytona in the 2011 500.
Let's see those Harrison Burton tickets. I'm excited. Hopefully someone had them because I'm sure he had a good some good long odds there. And yeah, it was a crazy one. Shout out to Harrison for finally getting it done. You can see, like, despite him not having a ton of success in this series, Elliot, still popular guy in the garage. Everyone was coming to congratulate him, even the guys who he's kind of pushed down the cut line a little bit, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain. So that was super cool as well. And hey, man, give him credit. Like, it is some of the craziness that comes with Daytona, but he was throwing blocks at the end on Kyle Busch, stuck with his line long enough to get out in front as well, and held it down to the checker. So very excited for him. Do you think it changes much for Harrison Burton's long-term outlook?
So I think what it does is whatever like Xfinity discussions he was having, it probably locks him in for a good ride there. I don't know what's available, but I'm assuming he'll be in a good enough spot for a good Xfinity seat because he's probably still got the Dex imaging backing behind him. And now with the Daytona win, I think it's too late, and his other results have not been quite good enough to stay in Cup for next year, but that's going to be his best bet. Drop down, get in a competitive ride, win some races, and you'll make your way back. We've seen it with John Hunter Nemechek. We've seen it as a path that guys are taking now, and I think that it could be the best bet for Harrison Burton. And I don't know if you've seen all this stuff. Parker Retzlaff in the 62 pushing him to the win, and apparently Chevrolet's real mad at him because he didn't stick with Kyle Busch. First of all, Kyle Busch wanted nothing to do with Parker Retzlaff. He said, please, Christopher Bell, come behind me. You be the one to push me, not this guy making his second start in a Beard car. Seth, we know you're just love Beard Motorsports there. We know that's the top equipment in the garage. But they do have an alliance with Richard Childress Racing, so I can get why you'd want to help your teammate there. But a kid looking for any good opportunity, trying to win a race at Daytona, doing what he can to get there, how can anyone blame him for that?
Yeah, I mean, he's been with that sponsor, Funkway, in the Xfinity Series, in the Cup Series. They kind of follow him all around his racing career. So I get what he wanted to do. He wanted to put himself in a position to win. And if it happened to the point where he was able to clear him and Kyle Busch and get down and make a run at the win, that's what you have to do. He put himself in position. And even Chris Bell at one point did clear Harrison Burton. So I thought Bell was going to jump up into that top line. And then we might see a little Bell Rowdy drag race to the finish. But we didn't. So, yeah, fuck that nonsense. Like, RCR, you shouldn't be in this position where Kyle Busch has to win to get in. It's been tough for Kyle Busch, especially this year now. 2 really close finishes on the super speedways, but can't blame the kid for trying. I'd also like to shout out a guy we give a lot of shit on this program, Cody Ware. P4. I honestly almost bet it was like a 16-1 top 10 on Cody Ware, but he had never top 10 Daytona. So I was like, I don't know about if I can go ahead and get behind that. But that's like the one thing I would say with me for a takeaway, Elliot, is especially with Daytona, I need to bet more with my heart sometimes than just like pure analytics. Cause like the number was saying, hey, bet Cody Ware, take a shot here. Same with Parker Retzlaff. Some people cash some really big tickets on those.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the super speedways, especially Daytona and Talladega. I feel like Atlanta hasn't quite had the same, wild kind of stuff, probably because it's a little smaller, even with the same package. But there's always, I mean, you go back even to that 2011 500, there's always going to be one guy in the top 10 that you're like, how the hell do you get a top 10? And that was Cody Ware this week. So I also give respect where respect is due. I'm glad everybody was okay. The half or 3/4 flip that McDowell did that nearly tested the strength of the window net going right through Bowman's window there. And Josh Berry, I mean, that looked pretty bad, but that probably was better than if he had hit the grass and that thing had flipped like Ryan Preece did last year. Agreed with you there. Charles saying, yo, loved cashing that Lane Riggs outright at 50-1. Let's go, Charles. Nice. Hopefully Rod or Tino last week on the program shouted him out. I know Rod's usually a big Lane Riggs guy. And Charles also saying Parker at least getting that media coverage from his sponsors. Absolutely. I think all things said and done, Elliot, whether you like the race, whether you didn't like the race, there's something special about the summer of Daytona. To me, it almost feels as big as the 500. And I was excited for Harrison Burton to get it done. And Jeff Burton, the reaction in the booth, the fist pump and his mom crying, his fiance running out. Just a great scene. I loved it. I love an underdog story here every now and then in NASCAR. No doubt about it. And for everyone that's, upset, should Harrison Burton be in a playoff spot, your guy should have just won. If you're racing full time, even if he's the worst, put him in there. So, I mean, it's a pretty easy, you can kind of write off a spot to be eliminated in the round of 16. So that can help a lot of your guys too.
Agreed, 100%. And as we were away a couple weeks ago here, Elliot, some news did drop. Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, they're going to be driving for Haas factory team here in 2025 for their Xfinity Series program. What are your big takeaways here as Sam Mayer didn't get that cup seat he desperately wanted, and Sheldon Creed now on his 3rd team in 3 years in NASCAR second tier series?
Yeah, in terms of Mayer, I don't really think he got pushed out necessarily. But we know that JRM needed some room. They're probably getting a boatload to run Connor Zilic in the 88.
Oh,
yeah. Put Carson Kvapil in a car. They probably want to keep Brandon Jones around if they can, just for all his money. Mayer was kind of in an odd man out situation, and I feel like kind of getting away from the JRM blanket. If you're not going to go from JRM to Hendrick, which right now nobody is at the moment, it's almost better to get yourself out there and run for a different team. And I think that could be really interesting to, kind of betting on himself with Haas, which is what Sheldon Creed has been doing this whole time. It'll be his third different ride in 3 years, but this man's trying to win a race. He's trying to get all the opportunity he can to eventually get himself to the next level too. These are two guys, young and hungry. And I think that they're the right picks for this Haas team as they move into a new era without Tony Stewart.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Sam Mayer can do. He's won a lot here at JRM, 6 races under his belt that he has been in victory lane so far over the past 2 seasons. I'm excited to see what he can do in that Ford camp. And like you said, I think the opportunity then kind of presents itself, whether that's Front Row Motorsports, one of those other Rick Ware Racing, or one of those up-and-coming teams up there in the Cup Series. And Sheldon Creed, I finally bet on him last week. I had never really been a Sheldon Creed better or backer. Backed him last week at Daytona to get done. He didn't get me a top 5, so kind of dead to me still. But, it's going to happen eventually because, you put yourself in position in that runner-up spot so many times. It's eventually going to happen. Someone's going to run out of gas. Someone's going to blow a tire. Some fuckus is going to happen. And I think Sheldon Creed will eventually find victory lane. It might just be next year in that Haas Xfinity Series team.
Yeah, and there's not anything wrong with being Daniel Hemrick either. Daniel Hemrick came close a million times. Yeah, ends up with an overtime restart to go and win the championship, earning his first Xfinity win. Got it done. Honestly, we'll have to take a look at what Creed's odds this year. Those Gibbs cars are pretty solid, especially out there at Phoenix.
Yeah,
Creed title odds.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what these win totals would probably be next season. I imagine Sheldon Creed's will be half a win, probably taking the over just because, especially we're going to probably see some of this Xfinity Series talent move up a little bit. And then Sam Mayer, I'm sure his will probably be set at 1.5, which that's a gamble in that. Yeah, that's a gamble in that Haas factory team equipment. I don't know would you take the over on that, gun to the head right now, you think?
I would, depending on the odds, I would take the over. If it's, give me like a plus 300, plus 400, I'd probably take the over.
I don't think you're getting that. I think you're getting plus 150 max on that.
It's Cole Custer's run better than he's still only won the one race, right? So, and then Herbst just has the 1, 2. Honestly, I think these guys can be just as good as Custer and Herbst. So I would definitely consider the over.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles asking in the chat, what are you drinking tonight, Elliot?
I'm not drinking a Pittsburgh Penguins, as the koozie says. Got the hard Mountain Dew going, a little live wire action.
Okay, nice. Love to hear it, man. Charles also saying we can't bypass the Zane Smith news.
You're jumping ahead, bud. Come on, give us time, dude.
We weren't going to at all. Elliot, you can go ahead and break down this news, my friend.
Yeah, so we all were kind of expecting this, but Trackhouse made it official that Shane Van Gisbergen will drive, and I love this. He'll drive the number 88 in the Cup Series next year, bringing back the number that Dale Jr. and Alex Bowman ran for Hendrick Motorsports. And they also made the decision to release Zane Smith from his contract. They know he got his year in Cup in this year. They know that in all likelihood, the charter agreement is going to forbid them from ever adding that fourth charter. They're just going to have to stick with the 3 that they're going to get. Obviously, not confirmed, but heavily implied that they were getting one of the Stewart Haas Racing charters. And obviously, this is the right decision. Zane Smith may be a more well-rounded stock car driver right now in NASCAR. He's got the Truck Series title, got some wins down there. But you're not going to get rid of a guy with the star power of SVG and damn near a guarantee of getting you in the playoffs, especially if you can have a Trackhouse car that's been competitive on the road courses. Give him something he can win in. He'll run up front. He'll put that 88 back in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for Zane Smith. Had a really, really poor start to the season. Has kind of started rounding into form a little bit the more he's been in this Cup Series equipment. A lot of top 20s over the last couple of months. Almost had a run and a win in Nashville a couple months ago as well. And I think something we can't discount here is it's kind of a weird situation going on there in this number 71 team as it is. Not only is he under Trackhouse right now, but they're over in Call League. Trackhouse still has a hand in that car. I just kind of get bad vibes from that number 71 team for whatever reason. Rookie crew chief, it hasn't helped him progress. I don't think so. So Zane Smith on Twitter as well was not happy about this situation either. Justin Marks remarks about it too, and how it was a quote easy decision. Not the best look for Marks and Trackhouse in general, kind of how they handled this entire Zane Smith situation. He's a talented driver, though, even if he has to go back to truck for a year, back to the Xfinity Series for a season. I think he can get it done wherever it is. It's sad to see Zane Smith go from Trackhouse here, but you know, they have Connor Zilic. They're already not super happy with Daniel Suarez. He'll be back in this number 99 car next season. But as you allude to, Shane Van Gisbergen is a star. He is an international star too. He's drawing eyes all across the world and bringing them to NASCAR. 3 Xfinity Series wins so far, maybe a 4th one if Austin Hill didn't rough him up earlier this season at COTA as well. And you know, like you said, he's probably going to have a chance to cash his way into the playoffs next season in the Cup Series as well. Now we just had the news that we're going to Mexico City as well. That's one more road course. I believe that's taking kind of Richmond's place there in the schedule. So, I mean, it's guns a-blazing for SVG next season. Also going to be back out there in Chicago, where it should have freaking won this year if it wasn't for NASCAR not throwing the red flag and due to the weather. Would you? I imagine you would definitely take at least a half a win over on SVG next season, given that it'll be close to even money.
Yeah, I would honestly think that they put that at maybe even a
1.5
or something. Yeah, maybe even a 1.5 wins. But I mean, you're drinking a hefty glass of juice there. I think if it's at 0.5 over win total, because you have so many road courses. And how Denny Hamlin put it on his podcast was like, just points wise, he'd be surprised if SVG ran top 25. But with that opportunity to go out there and win a road course, SVG could even find himself in the final 8, which, you know, he could end up that way in Xfinity as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're seeing the same thing in Xfinity, where if you stack wins here, you're getting playoff points. It doesn't really matter which way they come, they're coming. And he's getting better on these ovals, man. Every time you go to a super speedway in the Xfinity Series, you have to, you know, circle SVG's name for a little bit of a long shot there. He had a 4th place run at Indianapolis just a couple weeks ago as well. So SVG cannot be discounted here. I love that Trackhouse is probably paying colleague to run him in this number 16 car more towards the end of the season as well. So he's just getting more and more work on the ovals. I love it. I think it's the right play. I want to know from the IVT family in the live chat here in the comments after the show as well. Is this the right move to you? Do you guys think that Justin Marks maybe not handled this the right way in the media, but still made the right decision, I think?
Yeah, and that's the tough part. Like, I totally understand where Zane is coming from, that he's upset about this, but this was far and away the correct decision for Justin Marks. The way the Trackhouse looks right now, Ross Chastain's your anchor, championship Ford driver. He's got that experience, even though he hasn't had quite the same year this year.
Yeah,
he's still your anchor. SVG, you brought him in after the Project 91, wild success. He's your guy as long as he wants to race, because he's got that star power. He's got that road course, you know, strong ability to go out there and win 1 or 2, if not even 3 of those, because I feel like this 88 is going to run better than the Colleague 16 with interchangeable drivers is. And then you have Suarez, who is going to run 2025, and then he's going to be replaced by Connor Zilic if Zilic has a good year in Xfinity in that 88.
Yeah.
And for Zilic, you know, the sky's the limit for him. They're wanting to tie him down. They're not wanting to stick around with Daniel Suarez unless Suarez really breaks out of his shell. I think getting that win in Atlanta kind of saved his job for next year, but they only signed him to a 1-year extension for a reason. And I know Justin Marks and Trackhouse have been a feel-good story, and there's still feel-good element there. But at the end of the day, you have to run the best race team you can run. You have to go out there and fight with the Gibbs and the Hendricks and those guys that have been doing it forever. You need to make sure you have your 3 best guys in your 3 Cup cars if you're only going to get to have 3 Cup cars. And they will have that in 2026. And they'll still have a damn good lineup in 25, just as they've had a good lineup this year.
Absolutely. And last note on this for me, if Zane Smith does go back to the Truck Series, hallelujah. There'll be a lot of top 5 bets coming from this particular program on him next season. I'm curious to see what kind of ride he could get with maybe Eckes or Heim potentially moving out of that series. So maybe one of these top truck seats is open for him. So I'm excited for it, man. I think it's the right move overall. Zane Smith done a little bit dirty here, but still at the end of the day, I think it will all work out in time.
Yeah, hopefully he does get a decent ride somewhere. They're talking about manufacturer drama. Apparently Ford was upset with him for the way that he left for that Trackhouse deal. At the time, I mean, they didn't really have any upward mobility for him. Fuck yeah, I'm going to go sign with the potential of Trackhouse, even though it didn't work out. Hopefully he can still have a seat at the table with Ford, because, I mean, they brought in those guys for Haas factory team, but there's not really a prospect pipeline for Ford in the same way that there is for Chevy and Toyota. So that could be his best move. I mean, he's probably not going to get that 38 front row truck again, but go run the Truck Series, run a Ford, run a whatever. Yeah. He's a guy that's talented enough. He'll land somewhere.
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely. All right, Elliot, well, what do you say, man? Should we look forward to the Lady in Black here down in Darlington?
Yeah, let's turn the page and round out the regular season with one more horizon forecast for Darlington.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Forecast-wise, I can't believe there was no significant rain affecting anything in Daytona. That might have been the best part of the whole weekend. No rain delays, no late-night races. But we're headed to Darlington now in South Carolina. High tire wear, low grip, skillful intermediate track, and there's really no true comp to this place because, you know, the old story from when they built it, they could put 2 of the turns a little wider, then they had to cut 2 of the turns a little shorter because of some guy with a lake who didn't want the track to interfere with the lake at all. So that makes Darlington a very unique Lady in Black.
If you are a newer NASCAR fan, if you watch here and there, Darlington is one of those races I think you have to have circled. It's always an absolute blast, especially here in the Southern 500. This is a little bit of a war of attrition. You know, there's gonna be some losses. There's gonna be some mechanical failures. There's gonna be some wrecks. This is really a true driver's track. And I love it, especially here, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday night. So the sun's going to be going down. You're going to get that classic red glow in the background as well. So, yeah, I think it's a really fun track to come to. And as you said, like, we don't have any true comps to it. We can look back to the May race, especially because, like, it's not too far different weather-wise than what we're going to see now. And then some of those secondary comps, we can look back at Dover. You and I were at that race earlier this season, so I know we both have that pretty ingrained in our memory. We can look at Homestead as well from last fall. And then if you want to go all the way back to last spring, you can throw in Auto Club. I didn't really factor Auto Club too much into my handicapping, though.
Yeah, Auto Club's kind of an interesting one. I really didn't think of that as a comp, but yeah, Dover and Homestead close enough, and just running well at Darlington is going to be important. And you're right about the attrition too. Remember a couple years ago, we saw both Truex and Kyle Busch blow up while they were leading the race at the end of it there in Darlington. And, you know, obviously the Coke 600 is, you know, the true chest of attrition.
Yeah.
But we don't even have that many 500-mile races anymore. So this is arguably just the same.
Yeah, 100% there with you. And I'm looking forward to it, certainly here. We got Dee in the chat saying, hello, boys. Had some free time, wanted to be part of the IBT family. Dropping us a $20 super chat as well. Dee, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know her family's going through some things right now, so really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Dee. Excited to draft with you on Sunday as well. Dee was the big donator to my Pros with Joe's charity I was running, so I'm going to be drafting with Dee on Sunday afternoon, so looking forward to that as well. Looking at some of the rest of the schedule here, Elliot, on Darlington race weekend, we're going to be looking Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, the Xfinity Series, the Sports Clip Haircuts VFW Help a Hero 200 is going to be going off. Also earlier in the day, 12:35 p.m. Eastern time, Cup practice and qualifying. So looking forward to that. And yeah, I'm going to be pausing the college football, or at least I got 2 TVs running in the living room, so I can kind of, you know, I also have YouTube TV. We can kind of break some things up there. But yeah, take a break from your college football. Penn State will already have won by then, so you can flip the channel from there and turn on that Xfinity Series race. Looking at some trends here, Elliot. Darlington's an interesting one. Joey Logano actually leads all active pole winners with just 2 of them. So we haven't seen a lot of trends there in qualifying. Although the last time Hendrick Motorsports won the pole was 2019. Byron was actually a top HMS driver starting 5th in the spring. So I don't want to give anything away to you, too early here, but I'm like not super high on Hendrick this week for the first time in a while.
Yeah, neither am I. I mean, they didn't really run well in the spring at all. Remember, Larson crashed out. I think
he was the one good car. Yeah. I don't know if Chase crashed out. I know he had a bad run for sure. I can look up his finish.
He didn't run well. And then they did have 2 guys in the top 10, but that was only after Reddick and Buescher had their incident there, because I think Alex Bowman was 8th, and he sure as hell wasn't the 8th best car. He ran about 15th to 18th all day. Yeah. William Byron, I think, ended up with the top 10, and he was kind of 10th to 12th all day. So we'll talk about that later in some of the bets too. But Chevrolet in general, especially with Hendrick, I'm not super high on this weekend.
Yeah, and I will say, the last time a driver went back-to-back, it was old Jeff Gordon, 95, 96 as well here at Darlington. And the last first-time Cup Series winner we had at Darlington, little foreshadowing till later, Regan Smith in 2011. I don't know if you remember that one, Elliot.
I sure do, yeah. I think he took 2 tires on a restart and really shocked everybody. And that was back in the days when Furniture Row was just coming out of being like a start and park backmarker team.
Yeah, absolutely. Winners generally from this race. I think this is a very important, if you're going to listen to any of these trends we're giving you, that's probably the most important one. Front row winners, 32% of the time. Top 5 winners, 59.5% of the time. And then 83% of the time, this is the winners coming from top 10 on the grid here. Those are way higher than the normal averages, Elliot. Like usually you get maybe like a 25% from the front row, top 5 in the 50-ish range, and top 10, 70 to 75. So qualifying really does matter here. So you might find some value after qualifying if you want to play those, top couple guys who come out fast. But at the same time, I'm betting on guys pre-practice and qualifying who I think are going to come out and unload fast on Saturday.
Yeah, and the tough thing about a 500-mile race at a driver's track is you really can't hide if your car's not that good, and it'll really benefit you if you've got a damn good car.
Yeah, and the top 4 cars in that race in the spring were the guys who started up front too. Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, Buescher. No one will forget how they were running at the end. We can kind of relive that a little bit later. And Ty Gibbs also started top 4. He was a top 4 car. So you're not going to get a ton of surprises. Like you're not going to see a guy probably qualify in the 20s. Maybe he had a bad lap or something. But besides that, if they practice poorly, if they qualify poorly, you're not going to see them kind of come from the back here, I think, in this one.
Yeah, especially not to win the race. I mean, you can qualify in the 20s and end up finishing 4th, and that's a pretty good day for you. But if we're looking at the winners here, then we'll have to go with that.
Yeah, our iFantasyRace.com asterisk mark drive of the week. If you haven't checked out iFantasyRace.com yet, what are you doing? Get over there. It helps Elliot, myself, all our handicappers here, not only at IBT, but all across the industry. Get ready for each and every week. We're dialed into iFantasy Race, so make sure you guys are too. Kyle Larson, we kind of touched on him and Hendrick earlier. Top 5 performer this spring at Darlington, but actually finished with an asterisk mark 34th place finish. Larson won stage 1, finished 5th in stage 2, led 15 laps. Then on the last stage, on lap 235, while running 3rd, Larson got into the wall and then immediately came to pit road. Then shortly after, he got back out there, and while running 6th, he had a flat tire and crashed. So Kyle Larson, that's kind of been the story lately. Like it's very up and down. And even last week, bro, like Kyle Larson was throwing some ballsy moves. Like I was glad I wasn't on him, and I was upset that I was on anyone racing around him because the guy was just being a fucking maniac, man.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, he's almost trying to learn how to be a good super speedway racer, because it's if there's one strength that Kyle Larson doesn't have, which I know is crazy to say with how good he is, it's on the super speedway. So I don't blame him for that, but yeah, it definitely makes things crazy. And yeah, I guess I had thought Larson kind of didn't have a great run, but now that thanks to the asterisk mark, I do remember he was kind of up in the front, then just had a couple of things happen all at once and ended up crushing his day. But important to note too, because he has had good runs here in that Hendrick 5.
Yeah, absolutely agreed with you there. And Charles, far too kind. He says he's sharing his Lane Riggs outright ticket with the IBT family. Catch me every week. Man, we appreciate it. We do not deserve that. We are a bunch of dumbasses talking here on the internet, but we greatly appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. It goes a long way. And Elliot, we're starting to kind of circle some dates next year as the schedule came out. We'll talk about that hopefully more in depth here in a future video. But this is going to go a long way with helping us get to some tracks next season.
No doubt about it. And I mean, you guys already know we're going to be at Pocono unless something crazy happens there. June 22nd, that Cup race. Already have that one in the memory banks. But yeah, going to see where we can shop around and spread the word of the IBT fam around some other racetracks next year.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What do you say? Should we start laying out the betting cards for about 28 minutes into this son of gun?
Yeah, I think people are ready. Let's go ahead and lay down those parking garage props. Well, when we were talking before the show, we kind of had opposite takes of how the books looked. I know you were saying you got a pretty good card. My card doesn't have a whole lot on it. There was not a lot of value that I could see, especially at the top of the board.
Yeah, definitely at the top of the board. I kind of had to go like, no, I'm not dumpster diving here. I'm not going Baskin Robbins after hours into the dumpster, walking down to GameStop, seeing if I can get any games out of there. No, I did go down the board a little bit, but I did like some of the value especially in the outright market, which, you know, I've been scaled back the last couple of weeks here. I've been busy, and at the same time, like, I just haven't seen a ton of value that I've wanted to get on here in August. So I'm pushing some chips into the middle. So definitely some, you know, some interesting things. And like, I will say not a ton of variety. That was especially here in Pennsylvania. And people last week were getting top 20 markets. People were getting to lead a lap markets. We had none of that. So I don't know who pissed off Caesars here in Pennsylvania, but someone took them to town because they are not giving us shit now in some of these even like more fun prop markets that we've been hitting.
Yeah, I even noticed that looking on the Bet365 odds where I saw a lot of fun a couple of weeks ago, not quite as much fun this week.
Yeah, that's part of it, man. You know, still, I appreciate the value where it can be had. The Xfinity Series race, I thought, had some value. We'll touch on later as well. Let's start in that outright market, Elliot. How are you feeling about it? As you kind of allude to, favorites pretty short here. Kyle Larson going off at plus 650, 7-1 for Denny Hamlin, 7.5 for Tyler Reddick as well. William Byron then comes in at 12-1. So those top three, if you like them, you have to lay a little juice there.
Yeah, and for Reddick, I certainly don't mind the juice. The number I had seen him on was plus 650 on FanDuel, so
yeah,
7.5-1.
Yeah, he just jumped up to 7.5-1 because I saw him at 6.5-1 at FanDuel as well earlier.
Nice. Well, that's a big plus because, you know, he's I think leading the regular season title standings right now. He's going to want to solidify that, get those extra playoff points, really launch him into a chance to win this championship. And he'll want to redeem himself for the spring too, because I know he's a guy that whenever he makes mistakes, it really eats him up. You know, it embarrasses him because he knows he's better than that. And I think he'll really want to try to be better than that this weekend. But another guy who's going to want some revenge or redemption from the spring is going to be Chris Buescher. He's 20-1 over on Bet Rivers, and he still needs to clinch a playoff spot. You know, one of those bubble guys, they are going to be all fighting hard. They don't want to worry about where this guy or that guy are in points. They want to just go out there, get the win, and let the bubble battle be settled behind them in victory lane.
Yeah, let's stay with Chris Buescher there. 20-1. If you bet him at Bet Rivers, where he is that number, you can actually lock in the free the free top 5 insurance promo that they're running over there as well. So I am down for 0.8 of a unit on Chris Buescher at 20-1. I think that's a crazy number. I'm also down on him for a top 10 minus 118 from our friends in Pittsburgh as well for a unit and a quarter as well. I haven't been very successful betting Chris Buescher this year, like on just being honest with you. I had him for a top 5 a couple weeks ago. He finished 6th. That's kind of been the story of my season. I bet him he finishes 11th. You know, that like he's like my toxic ex, Elliot. I just keep going back, man. I keep going back for that YP. And I'll tell you what, we don't have to remind everyone about how good he was in the spring. If it wasn't for that son of a bitch Reddick, like he probably would have won that race. And that would have been his 3rd straight top 10 at Darlington. He finished 3rd here in this race, the Southern 500 last fall as well. In that spring race, 4th in the total speed rankings, 1st in last segment speed, 8.1 average running position. That's the 5th best. Ran 89.9% of the laps inside the top 15 as well. That's the 6th best. I think 20-1 is a great price, especially when you consider his recent starts here at Darlington. P3 in this race earlier this season, P8 last season. So you're not going to find a 20-1 on him. Maybe live if he somehow gets mixed back in some shit, but 20-1 I think is a great value, and I'm riding it out here over at Bet Rivers.
Yeah, I think that's about the best you're going to get, especially because I think they'll be fast here again. Just like I thought at Daytona, you know, they didn't control the race like I thought they would, but I know he'll want to get back to victory lane and get in the playoffs. And there are 2 other outrights that I just want to mention. I feel like you're not going to like either one of them, but I'm going to say them anyway. The first one I'm only going to bring up because it was boosted to 14-1 on Caesars, Martin Truex Jr., just because he's gotten the wins at Darlington before. He's been only because of the boost. The normal numbers that he's on, I'm not a fan of. But at a 14-1, I don't hate Truex at the very least. I know the numbers haven't looked great. He's been 18th or worse here since the fall of 2021. But that also includes a trio of DNFs while he was leading laps that were mixed in there too, you know, whether it be just getting involved in a crash or some bad luck with the motor blowing. I don't like him in his regular odds, but boosted, or if he qualifies well, maybe a little better. You know, it's worth a look just because maybe I'm delusional. Maybe
you are. I just think he's out to lunch, man. Like there are other places he would have won. Richmond. Like I can't. His stats are fine here. He's a top 10 car. Like I think he has potentially some value and some placement props or some matchups, but I just can't get behind him here, man. I just, you know where I've been on him for pretty much the last, like, since he announced his retirement. So yeah, I don't blame that. I will say though, Tyler Reddick being 7.5 to 1 now, as we were kind of talking about that, I probably will be adding that to the card. 6.5 was a little bit short to me. 7.5 feels pretty nice there. I think he's the one big dog this week that if I'm betting a Hamlin or a Larson or a Reddick, it is Reddick, just because how dominant he was in the spring, running 100 or leading 100 plus laps. What's the other one here that I'm not going to like?
So we feel like we can't let Darlington go by without talking about Eric Jones. And his outright is all the way up at 66 to 1 at BetMGM. And I only bring it up because even before he got injured and needed to go and win to make the playoffs for sure, you know damn well they've had this race circled all year long, because Eric Jones has been able to pull it off at Darlington, arguably his best track. Yeah. Dude was never outside the top 8 here when he was in a Joe Gibbs car. And now obviously the equipment's not as good. I think his last 2 finishes here were 19th and 10th. So maybe that top 10, which I saw at 2.5 to 1 on BetMGM, maybe that makes more sense. But if anybody's going to really send it and maybe be worth a look, I feel like the 43 could definitely be interesting. He's done it before. 2022, I didn't think anyone had a chance in hell that Jones would win, and he ends up pulling it off.
Yeah, and like this is why I bet him to win the championship, not because I thought he could win the championship, but just because the fact that Eric Jones could get himself in the playoffs, and Darlington is a place where he could do it. It's been a tough season for him. I wish the number at FanDuel was 65 to 1. I think it's 45 or something like that over at FanDuel, and then you can maybe get a cash out if he does make his way to the front. I don't hate that at all, though, Elliot. I think that's actually a very reasonable call. If you're like, I'm playing him in a couple fantasy lineups that I've already set in some of my non-place differential leagues. So yeah, I don't mind backing Eric Jones here at all. Sticking with Toyota, I think people are overlooking Ty Gibbs this week. 18 to 1 on the outright at Bet Rivers with that top 5 insurance, going an eighth of a unit on that. Also top 10 at Bet Rivers, a unit and a quarter for me as well. That's a crazy number to get minus 125 for a top 10 on Gibbs to me, because you look at most of the other books, he's like minus 250, minus 275, minus 225 in that range. That run from Ty Gibbs, it kind of goes overlooked because we remember Kez and the RFK boys battling with Reddick at the end. But Ty Gibbs was certainly in that race, qualified fourth, average position of 4.1. That was the third best. 96.6% of the laps he ran were inside the top 15. That's the fifth best. Led 34 laps in that one. Had a driver rating of 121.3. That's the second best. What's he done at the comps for us over the last 12 months? Well, 10th at Dover earlier this spring when we were there. And then at Homestead last year, 7th as well. So wow, I feel really good locking in the top 10 at just a little bit of juice, minus 125 for Ty Gibbs. And if Ty Gibbs is going to win his first Cup Series victory this season, I think it's either here at Darlington or Kansas in about a month from now. Like that's it. Those are the only places I'm betting Ty Gibbs. So I got to get down here 18 to 1 on the outright at Bet Rivers.
Did you say that top 5 bet, was that also Bet Rivers or was that on MGM?
Top 10, the top 10 minus 125. That's at Bet Rivers as well. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I noticed the only Ty Gibbs bet I have is on a matchup where he's over Martin Truex Jr. at plus 105. And everywhere else where they offer that matchup, Truex was the favorite, and sometimes a pretty heavy favorite. Or I mean, Gibbs was the favorite and Truex was the underdog. This one has Truex as the favorite and Gibbs is the underdog.
Where's that? Is that Bet MGM?
That's a Bet MGM. And I noticed even I think their top 10, or there was something else that I thought really undervalued Ty Gibbs here. He's not the underdog elsewhere. And like all you said, I mean, you threw out the stats. Their second place run in the spring. He's going to get it done. And you don't like that MTJ. You know, you think he's going to falter. I think the 54 certainly could finish ahead of him, to say the least.
That was a close one. I saw him, like you said, most places, like almost a pick 'em, or Ty Gibbs was even favored, and I didn't want to do that. Yeah. But if he is plus money out there against MTJ, I would consider it, certainly. I think MTJ will be a top 10 car, but I think Ty Gibbs could be a top 5 car. I do want to shout out one other outright out there right now. And man, we put him on the thumbnail. This is another guy I can never get right. But Christopher Bell, I got him earlier in the week, 16 to 1 at FanDuel. I think now you can get him about 14 to 1 at FanDuel. And listen, outside of super speedways, Christopher Bell should never fucking be 16 to 1. Like, this is a new Christopher Bell we're looking at. He has had mixed cup results here at Darlington, but he started top 3 in 3 of the last 5 next gen races here. Pole of this race a year ago as well. also has stage points in 7 of the 10 possible stages in this next gen equipment as well. So he didn't have a great run here in the spring, but still 11th in the Darlington next gen total speed rankings, courtesy of iFantasy Race. And also had 3 races inside the top 7 in speed at Darlington before these last kind of 2 stinkers here. He also won Homestead, one of our closest comps last season.
Yeah.
And he has 3 finishes of P6 or better in his last 3 races coming in. He's running double duty. I think this guy's fired up. 16-1 for Bell for me is an attractive number. Chuck asking here what your floor would be on the Bell outright. I would think I'd still bet it at 14-1. I would say 14 or 13, and that's probably as far as I'd go because he does not have the history of dominance here, but he does have speed here, and I'm chasing that speed here, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, I looked for ways to fit Christopher Bell into my card, and I really didn't find any. Looking at those recent stats, and even the intermediate total speed rankings over here, Bell's all the way down in 14th.
Yeah.
His Darlington spring run was all the way in 19th. I mean, he's got good intermediate runs, but he's also got not so good intermediate runs.
Yeah.
And I was looking, but I just think that there'll be better Toyotas. I think there'll be better cars. I kind of struggle to see Bell running top 10 here unless he's got a really good car.
I think he's going to have that car, man. They've had it when it doesn't blow up here at JGR. He's almost has the best equipment week in and week out. Chuck's saying you get 12-1 at Bovada. I would look at that. Yeah, I think I wouldn't go as heavily as I did with a full unit on him. But I have another Chris Bell bet I can give out later. But he's just running too good, man. He's running too good right now. He's too damn consistent. And this isn't a track I'm scared of him as well. And it's like Alfred said, Bell is projected to qualify very well. That's what I'm trying to pick up positive EV here. If we go into this and Bell's on the pole or he's on the front row, you're going to cash out at 16-1 before it even starts over at FanDuel if you're still betting that 14, 16-1. So like that, I'm not trying to pick a winner here. I'm trying to pick a guy who's going to give me positive EV going into the weekend. Marcus with a little Christopher Bell love as well. He's always hanging around in the shadows, ready to drop.
Hey, Marcus, who's your favorite driver? I have no room to talk with all the fucking I put out to all you people. So.
Yes, I would love to see Marcus's collection of NASCAR gear. I'm sure he has a ton of Christopher Bell stuff, ton of diecast as well. So I'd like to see that at some point, Marcus. Anything else for you here in the outrights? Like I said, I'm on Ty Gibbs 18-1, Buescher 20-1, and Bell 16-1. That's why I like this week for me is like I found value in kind of those mid-range options.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good mid-range option, but like even throwing the Truex out there, like I said, if there wasn't that boost, I'd already had him scratched off of my notes, but then I saw the boost. I just think the mid-range guys are probably going to be mid-range, and I think you're going to see one of these favorites or either one of the favorites like the 5'11" and 45, or a guy that goes balls to the wall to make the playoffs, the 8, the 17, the 43, some other guys, rather than some of these middling, not middling, but like mid-range guys in the odds.
Yeah, it's funny. They put out that boost just to bring you right back in. You and Tino and all you poor saps have been betting MTJ.
Dude, I still have the over 2.5 bet. To ask me how that's going to go by the time Phoenix comes around. That's okay. I only put $1 on it, but still.
There you go. All right, let's move to placement props here. Anything we haven't touched on for you? Like I said, I'm on top 10s for Gibbs and Buescher.
Yeah, I mean, all the top 10s for those guys too. The one that I have here, I don't know if I'm excited about this one as some others. I feel like Bubba Wallace at even money, it's not a number that I love, hence my hesitation. I almost was like, am I even going to bring up Bubba or am I going to move to something else? But he's been in the top 10 each of the last 4 Darlington races, and he's another one of those guys that is going to have to run up front, get stage points, find any way that he can to make up that bubble battle, whether he wins or not. So he'd be running in the top 10. Again, he should have a car that's at least on par with that 45, which we're expecting to compete for the win. I don't see why the 23 couldn't either. And then more of a long-range one, which I look for those couple of guys down there, like a Haley or a Gilliland or a Hocevar or an Austin Dillon or somebody down there in the top 10. Justin Haley at 10-1 this week. He's been sneaky good here, better than I thought. I was looking at these guys, Todd Gilliland had run so well. Some of these other guys.
I think he was top 10 last year here, wasn't he, in this race?
His recent results here, in the spring, he was 9th. Last spring, he was 8th. Wow. And the spring before that, he was 3rd.
Wow.
And
That's
2 good runs in shitty Collin cars and then a damn good run in a mediocre Rick Ware car. So, I mean, you're really betting it up at that 10-1. You see no falls in there. That's all the spring because you have a lot more guys either for the playoffs or in this case, to make the playoffs in the regular season finale. Maybe that's part of why it doesn't happen in the fall. But these spring results, those are impressive. And at a 10-1 number for a top 10, Justin Haley's continued to surprise. Ran up front a lot at the end there at Daytona before getting taken out in that McDowell wreck.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Ellie. Between this and some of your outrights, you're coming to play it this week because other than the MTJ bet, I love what you're saying, and I think I maybe did miss Haley a little bit in my handicapping, so I appreciate you pointing him out there. Guy's been hot. Here in Darlington. Hasn't been running the best as of lately. Things have kind of cooled down from him. It seems like in silly season talk as well. But yeah,
well, I do think his silly season talk has cooled down because his ride is locked up. So
yeah. I mean, hey, you never know. He could jump ship. But I do want to shout out one bet that I was on earlier this week. The number is no longer there. I think it was a misprice, honestly. I found your boy Alex Bowman top 10 at FanDuel earlier this week, plus 270. I went down a unit on plus 270. Hear me out here.
Okay, I'll let you go first, and then I'll pull up some results while you're looking.
First of all, I don't usually plug my Twitter because I put out a bunch of bullshit on that account usually. But I did tweet out my best bet earlier from Betting Pros this week with this bet. So if you're following me on there, maybe you got that plus 270 number. Shout out to FanDuel because we've cooked this line down. I think the best you can probably find now is plus 180, plus 175. I'd still maybe be tempted if I can find close to a 2-1. Finished top 10 in his past 2 incident-free races at Darlington, P8 in the spring. It's like you said, he wasn't technically a top 10 car. But also, when we were at Dover earlier this season, our closest comp track, he had a fucking rocket. P2 in segment 2, finished P8 overall as well. He's good at Dover. He's delivered top 10s when he doesn't wreck out here at Darlington as well. It's time to dust himself off. He's kind of been sliding backwards. Like, it was a late summertime slump for Alex Bowman this year. And he has kind of been running like dog shit as of late. But before that break, he was speeding and he was doing well. So I think it's time to build some momentum heading into the playoffs here for this number 48 team. Alex Bowman top 10 plus 270. Let's do it.
Yeah, I guess at a plus 270 now that I pull up these
results. That's a crazy number. That's a crazy number.
It's not a bad number, but I just feel like, obviously I'm watching the 48 or the 88 when he was in before, closer than just about anybody on the track.
Yeah.
And there's never been a Darlington race where I've been like, oh, Bowman's running pretty well. He might be able to get there. It's never happened.
No, but he's going to be 10th to 15th. He's going to be like 8th to 15th. More so, it's like 14th to 18th, if not worse than that. Crashed out 2 of the last 4 in the next gen, as you mentioned. And just nothing here that's super duper exciting. But at a plus 270, though, looking at some of the numbers a little closer, I'm sure a lot of my apathy was I'm excited. My guy's in the playoffs. Oh, fuck, he's not going to win the race. But there are some decent numbers here. 6th back in 2020, P2 in one of the races coming back from COVID. And, finishing 8th in the spring, he may not have had that good of a car, but you got to get through that battle of attrition even in the 400-mile race and put yourself in a position to finish well. Yeah, see, like this is what I'm talking about. Bowman is top 10 at Bovada plus 125. Like, I'm not fucking betting that, but give me a 2-1, a 270. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Like I was fired up when I found that earlier this week. I was ready to go.
Yeah, at a 270, I like it. At a 125, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, absolutely. No more placement props for you?
I don't think so.
Okay. I got one matchup that I haven't spoke of yet. Do you have any matchups you'd like to share first?
I've got another driver one and a team one. My driver one, and it's another one I'm not super confident on. But with the circumstances this week being the regular season finale, and with how the last couple of weeks have gone, and just with the price difference here, you have Kyle Busch against Chris Buescher over on BetMGM once again. Kyle Busch is at plus 125 compared to Buescher's minus 160. I do think Buescher's a better look here, but the 8 has been legit the last 2 weeks. A legitimate Kyle Busch might be able to win this race. And that, whether it's be just on the bigger tracks or whatever after the Olympic break, you can't discount that. And you can't discount a guy who needs a win to make the playoffs. Even though his only Darlington win all the way back in 2008 when he was in that Indiana Jones car with those M&M's mint or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he's not necessarily prolific here, but 2022 had the motor blow up in the lead late in stage 3, and he's had some decent runs here. Again, this is only because this is more of a gut feeling than a run feeling of that Kyle Busch is not going to go out without a fight and is going to run anywhere from top 3 to top 8 most of the night.
Yeah, I mean, he's 8th in the next gen total speed rankings here at Darlington. Kind of have to handicap that a little bit, saying, a couple of those races were in some different equipment, some fucking awesome equipment. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Like, I don't want to fade Chris Buescher though. Like that's not something I'm in the business of. So like if you want to back Kyle Busch on a top 10 or something like that, or against someone else, I'd consider it, but not. Yeah, I can't go Elliott against Buescher. Like I'd take the Buescher side probably, honestly, in that one. But I just don't want to bet that. One that I did not bet, and I'll just throw it out there just for the room to think about it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Harrison Burton is plus 130 against Hocevar at DraftKings right now. I couldn't bet it. It's too close to me. You're gambling really tough with it. He did beat Hocevar in the spring. He has had some really good runs here, including a P6 just a couple of years ago in the next gen era. Harrison Burton here. He's somewhat good at Darlington. He has a couple runner-up finishes in the Xfinity Series too. But Hocevar, I think he might have the, I don't want to say the better equipment, but more consistent equipment, I guess, as well. And also just, you know, he did run a little bit better than him in the spring. Didn't get the finish he maybe deserved there. So I couldn't bet that one, but I did, like, if you wanted a plus money matchup, and, you know, Harrison Burton, he's got that, you know, he's got that dog in him now. He's got that thing off his chest, so he's feeling good probably.
Yeah, equipment-wise, something I hadn't thought of with Burton is, you know, those 21 cars are in the Penske shop. They're made in the same spot as Cindric and Blaney and Logano, all of whom are also playoff drivers. So I'm wondering if maybe that 21 car, we always talk about, you know, teams really bring it in the playoffs. You have a lot of 4-car teams with all 4 cars making the playoffs. It happens fair enough. It's almost the first for Penske. You know, they normally are not expecting Cindric to do well. Definitely not expecting Harrison Burton to be in the playoffs. You know,
they got 4.
I almost wonder if that becomes a detriment when we get to the playoffs next week. Of, oh fuck, Penske's got to put 4 cars in the playoffs and try to have all of them do something. But then they just write off Burton and Cindric and throw all their eggs in the baskets of the last 2 champions of the Cup Series.
25% of the playoff cars are coming out of the Penske garage. Think on that one. And
another 25% out of Hendrick, which is wild.
Truex versus Byron. No way. If anything, I'd take Byron in that matchup, but I don't think, like, those are both guys I think in that like top 5 to 10 range for me that I'm just not touching that one. I don't even need to hear the odds, I don't think.
Byron does run fairly well at Darlington. His numbers kind of surprised me a little bit. I don't think I have any of them on my card, but especially with your apathy for Truex, I mean, probably the Byron side, but I don't think the odds are going to be there. You're right.
So my favorite matchup of the week in the Cup Series, it's Chris Bell minus 115 over Joey Logano. Already touched on Chris Bell, why I like him this week. I think he's a little bit of a sneaky guy. Logano, I've been absolutely fading this guy, I think, for 4 weeks straight, and it has paid off. Average finish of 29.25 over the last month. Vibes just don't seem very high in that camp since Richmond, man, Elliot. And had a pretty decent run going earlier this year, but Bell ultimately finished 13th to Logano's 21st. Logano was running better, had some issues in the pit there, but Bell has now beat him in 2 of the last 3 races at the track. Too tough to tame here. And this isn't a landslide in the Darlington history. They're pretty even, both kind of like borderline top 10 cars here. And for me, the equipment is better with Bell. I'm high on the Toyotas this week, and also the momentum is very high with Bell being a top 6 car 3 of the last 4 races, and Logano kind of just being, you know, I don't want to call him, he hasn't raced bad. He's looked good. He looked good at Daytona last week. He looked good at Richmond, but just hasn't got the finishes he deserves. So I think he's a little upset still about Richmond. So I'm going to fade Logano as long as they let me.
Yeah, I definitely can't blame you for that either. 29.6 or whatever you said, though, that's just an abysmal average finish. And that's not just, you know, I'm sure he was involved in a wreck last week at Daytona, but there's no excuse for some of those other races.
Yeah, Logano
needs Richmond. There's a pretty damn good excuse, but
yeah, he needs to go like a witch doctor or something, or I don't know, like break the curse, because yeah, just vibes aren't great over in that 22 camp. So we'll continue to fade him. Anything else from you for any other matchups, groups, or Cup Series specials before we hop into the lower tier series here?
So there's a couple groups, and you know I always have a bunch of specials, but you know I'll throw some stuff out there and let you break it down. So Caesar's groups, there were a couple decent ones here. I have Ross Chastain in a group. I also was mulling his top 10 and even money, even mulling his outright at 22-1 over in BetMGM. But I think in this group is probably my best place to put him. He's at plus 420. That's over Brad Keselowski, who's at plus 200, over Martin Truex Jr., who's at 225, and over Chris Bell, who's at 250. I know you're high on Bell this week. That might even write you out for this. But I think it's definitely possible to see him outrunning those 3. They all kind of have boom or bust potential. You know, Ross has crashed out of the lead a couple of times here. He's been rough this year, only 3 top 10s since Charlotte. I do kind of think some of those other bubble cars could rise up and maybe risk knocking that one car out of the playoffs for good. but I think Keselowski could go either way. They're already locked in.
He was so fast in the spring, dude. He was the best
fast.
car.
I would agree, but he probably doesn't win that race if Tyler Reddick doesn't send it.
He had but he had a crazy average running position though. It was insane. I don't have it pulled up right now, but it was like in the twos, I thought, or the threes, something crazy. Can't fade Brad.
That's why he's the favorite in the group. Then I'm not fading him necessarily. I just kind of like Ross's number here. And with Truex and the 20 car of Christopher Bell, again, boom or bust. They could run really well. I'm high on Truex. You're not. You're high on Bell. I'm not. Chastain could easily sneak around both of those guys.
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it, but I appreciate the try. Anything for specials here you got?
I've got one more group that I like too, and this was another one that it was just the numbers surprised me when I looked at him. I wasn't really high on this guy, but Michael McDowell at plus 380, and that's over Noah Gragson at plus 190, over Chase Briscoe at plus 190, which is tough because he has been good here before, and over Todd Gilliland at plus 350. He crashed out in both of last year's Darlington races, but in the other 3 next-gen races, Michael McDowell's finishes are 10th, 6th, and 7th, which was better than I thought. Yeah. And his top 10 is also at 5.5 to 1 over on FanDuel. If you're not liking him in the group, or if you think those numbers are good enough to warrant betting that top 10, I think it could be intriguing for sure.
I don't hate that. Todd Gilliland's actually kind of been sneaky decent here at Darlington recently as well. He had some pretty good speed, 12th fastest in the total speed rankings here at Darlington. So I actually might like Todd in that group personally, but I think both front row guys, I mean, they had speed last week. Let's see if they can continue it here down south in Darlington.
And then I just wanted to round off the Cup stuff with top 10 manufacturer markets, because I like on one side of all 3 this week. Those are over in the Caesar Speakeasy if you don't find them. I think for Chevrolet, I'm betting under 3.5 at plus 130 to finish in the top 10. It wasn't the best spring race, like I said, for Hendrick Motorsports. 24-48 didn't even really run that well to deserve the top 10. So I'm taking the under for Chevrolet because I'm taking the over both on Ford and Toyota. I think over 3.5 for Ford at plus 140. They had 5 in the top 10 in the spring, which that was kind of fluky, but it's definitely very possible. You got the RFK guys. We were just talking about front row might sneak in there. We were talking about Haley might sneak in there. I don't think they get to 5 again, but they only need to hit over 3.5. And then the Toyotas too at over 3.5. That's at plus 115, a little closer to even money. The competition, it's heavy there. JGR is going to be pretty good. The 23 needs the playoffs. The 45 is going for the regular season title. The 43 is sneaky here. I think they could easily sneak 4 of those guys into the top 10.
What was that under number for Chevy?
Under 3.5 for Chevy was plus 130.
I don't hate that. Looking back in the spring, only 2 Chevys in the top 10. Honestly, like I think Ross Chase and Kyle Elliott or Kyle Larson, excuse me. Well, I think those are probably the only guys who outside the guys who did it before William Byron and Alex Bowman could do it there. Like, yeah, I don't hate that one actually. That might be. I guess Eric Jones is Toyota now. Yeah. I actually like that's probably one of my favorite bets of the night too that you threw out. That and the Haley one I really like. So good on you, Elliot.
Well, thanks. I figured those ones were certainly worth a mention here before we moved on to Xfinity, which honest to God, man, I like the Xfinity numbers even less than the Cup numbers. There's nothing that really caught my eye here. I mean, Allgaier being the favorite. Allgaier is damn good here, but he always runs into bad luck. Christopher Bell's in the race. I think Logano's back in the 15. The 17 for Hendrick is back in. I think it's Chase Elliott. Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of those Cup guys run up front. But on the books, there wasn't really a whole lot that excited me. But I know it's going to be a fun race to watch, and I'm excited to hear what you've got on the books.
Oh, yeah, my friend. I am more between college football and this Xfinity race. I'm either going to be one happy camper by Saturday night, or I'm going to be drinking Busch Lights to soothe the pain, man. Because I'll tell you what, Elliot, I went heavy here, especially on my friend Chase Elliott. Plus 550 on the outright at ESPN Bet. I went a 6 of a unit there, and then a top 5 minus 120 at Caesars. 3 units down on it. I'm hammered down, drinking a little juice there. Chase won the Xfinity Series race at Darlington in his debut here at the Lady in Black. He has finishes a P23 and P6 in his other 2 races here. However, Chase is 3 for 3 at finishing top 5 in his last 3 Xfinity starts across the last 3 seasons here. So Chase, when he's in the car, he does well. Larson won at Darlington in the spring last season. Byron started, if you remember, we were heavy on Byron earlier this season as well at Darlington. He had to start last because they didn't qualify for Xfinity. He made his way all the way up to P11 despite still being almost dead last at the halfway point because he had like some type of issue, had to go back down pit road. Bunch of fuckers happened. And
Yeah.
the one thing that I was reminded of when I was doing that JRM tour last week was this number 17 car is pretty much a fucking JRM car. Like they get all their shit from Hendrick. They have a very strong alliance with their Xfinity Series program.
Mhm.
Nobody drives the Xfinity Series cars from out of Junior Motorsports better than Chase Elliott. You remember it. I remember it. So I'm going to back him here, man. Plus 550 on the outright ESPN bet. And I'm hammering down minus 120 top 5. That's probably my favorite bet of the entire weekend there. 3 units down.
Yeah, I definitely think Chase will be running up front there. I just feel like the 17 team often doesn't quite get to that full potential, but really only being a part-time program, you can understand that.
Yeah, I can't bet him. Every time I've tried to bet him this season, maybe you don't tail me on this one, folks, because every time I bet the 17 car, they end up having some bullshit happen to him. And every time I don't, they end up doing really well.
But Chase was the guy who was able to win in that car this year. So
yeah, he was. Absolutely. I'm also going to do it. I'm going to be that mark for Christopher Bell this weekend. I'm going to go plus 350 on the outright at ESPN bet for about 1.25 units, and then top 3 plus 110 at ESPN as well for a unit plus 110. And then finishes of P7 and P4 is 2 Darlington races that he stayed clean in the Xfinity Series. So hasn't been lights out, but it's still been very good. But he has also won half of his Xfinity Series races since 2021 as well. Almirola in this car earlier this spring, the number 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, P5. John Hunter Nemechek last season in this number 20 car at Darlington, P3 and P5, led 156 combined laps in those 2 races as well. Denny Hamlin also won here in this race last season in the fall in that number 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. So I'm high on JGR. I'm high on Christopher Bell here. I think there's just going to be a lot of speed in that 20 car. If Almirola could get a top 5, I think Bell is at least worth a little +2 action there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money to put on a low outright, but I kind of don't blame you. I'm a little surprised Denny's not getting out there and running. Normally, he loves these Darlington Xfinity races. I can't imagine what the fucking odds would be if he was running, though. Got to be probably even money to win in one of those Gibbs cars with how good he has been at Darlington.
Yeah, I was expecting to see, honestly, Denny on the entry list, but I think he's probably just like, hey, I got to focus all my attention on a Cup now, especially kind of being behind the 8 ball here after that bullshit penalty. I don't call it bullshit because, they
that's it. It was out of his control,
Yeah.
Somehow the team missed it. Somehow Toyota missed it and still took the damn thing apart. It's tough that they got to penalize the 11 car, but hey, we know Denny wasn't winning the championship anyway, so who cares, right?
Absolutely. Didi with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Didi. We do not deserve that at all. Must be a big Chase Elliott fan out there and out there in California. Thank you so much, Didi. We appreciate it. Anything else from you? Oh, I guess I do have one more Xfinity bet I can throw out for you. Sorry, I almost jumped the gun there. Anytime I can fade the son of a bitch, I'm gonna do it because he always gets into fuckus. Brandon Jones. I'm fading him against Noah Gragson. Gragson's minus 110 at Caesars. Actually, the underdog in this matchup. Brandon Jones always seems to get into trouble. Recent finishes at Darlington, 14, 34, 14. Did finish 10th in the spring. There wasn't as many Cup drivers, high-level Cup drivers in that race. So Gragson's average finish across 7 Xfinity Series starts at the Lady in Black, 4.0. That is a crazy number. He is great here in the Xfinity Series. Stage points in 12 of 14 possible stages, going all the way back to his rookie season in the Xfinity Series. 2 wins and no finish worse than P4 in his last 4 Xfinity Series starts at Darlington here. Average finish of 7.0 in the 3 starts in this Rhett Jones car this season. I know that was going to be your devil advocate, Elliot. You're going to be like, well, he's driving Rhett Jones equipment, number 37 car, whatever that bullshit is. Yeah. Average finish of 7.0 here for Noah Gragson. I don't think he can maybe necessarily get into the top 5. I wouldn't hate a top 5 sprinkle. I think I saw him 4-1, 3.5-1. I think he can still be a top 10 car, though. So I'll go ahead and take him over Brandon Jones here, who I don't even think he can tie his left shoe right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Rhett Jones cars are more like Stuart Haas cars, so I do get why Gregson's running well, and he's a good driver, too. Brandon Jones, he does have that win here, though. I mean, it took, I think it was Chastain and somebody that crashed and gave Brandon Jones a win. I can very faintly remember that race. Had to be during COVID because otherwise
that was when he was with Joe Gibbs, right?
He was in the Gibbs 19. It was a throwback with like a big apple in the front of it. I remember, And I don't think Ross had won yet that year. That was when he was in the Colleague 10, and he and somebody crashed. I don't remember who this was, but maybe somebody in the comments remember this race. I doubt it, though, because it was peak COVID when I had nothing better to do than watch NASCAR. So,
oh, those were the days. Those they weren't. That was a terrible fucking time. Want to forget about that, but at the same time, yeah, there was a lot of racing to watch Monday through Sunday. It felt like back in the day there.
Kush had that Wednesday Charlotte race too.
Yes, I remember. Kush checking in the chat. Dee also saying, if you're new, welcome and please subscribe and be part of the IBT family. Ring that bell for the news notifications and donate if you can to this amazing channel. Thank you, Dee. We appreciate that. Very too kind to us as always, but yeah, we appreciate it. If you guys are new to the channel, we're here live every Tuesday 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We also have a fantasy football, NASCAR, or NFL betting show as well on Tuesdays, and a PGA show that you should make sure and check out with Bo and Connor as well. And all right, what do you say? Should we jump into a little bit of DFS action here now that we've gotten through both series heading to Darlington on the betting side of things?
Let's go ahead and round it out with the tire tiers. So entry list wise, things are fairly simple this week. We have the 36 main chartered cars as well as Timmy Hill in the 66. Thanks for coming out, Timmy. We appreciate you. Kaz Grala is going to be in the 15 and Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be in the 16. As you mentioned, I think SVG is doing like 7 of the last 11 races or something like that. They're really ramping that stuff up in preparation for him to go full time in that 88 next year.
Let's go, man. Excited to see him. Yeah, some interesting back markers here. I always appreciate Timmy Hill coming out. You know, great.
Good to see Carl Long like back in the sport consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude was banned from the garage for like 8 years because he couldn't afford to pay some massive fine NASCAR put down on him. I'm glad they worked that out, and you know they're doing their best. They got a lot of publicity during COVID with Timmy Hill going out there and winning iRacing.
That's what I'm about to say. Guy's a hell of an iRacer. Hell of an iRacer, man.
They even put him in the Penske #2 car for one of those iRaces, I remember, because Keselowski couldn't get hooked up or something.
He also almost got in a scrap earlier this season, I think in the Truck Series, if you remember. I can't remember who he was pissed off at, but Timmy Hill was about to throw hands earlier this season. I think it might have been Crafton he was going to throw with. So, I love me some Timmy Hill. Will not be playing him in my DFS lineups. Let's start here at the top of the board. Who's the 101 for you this week? Because I think for once, I'm not on the two heavy favorites, at least I'd say.
Odds on Timmy Hill finishing lead lap will put him at about plus 15,000. How's that sound? So the prices this week, I never like to just put the chalk on the top of the board because Denny Hamlin is all the way up at 11,000. Larson is at 10.7, Reddick at 10.5, Byron 10.2, Keselowski at 9.8, and on down the board. I kind of think you have to go some combination of the 11, the 5, the 45, the 6, maybe the 17 to have to be in your A's.
Yeah, I would say Reddick is my favorite at 10.5. I think you're getting a little bit of a relief there. And like, let's not sleep on it, man. Reddick is slowly become the best NASCAR DFS asset out there if you're playing on DraftKings or Fantrax. Doesn't fucking matter. Averaging right now 42.1 DK points per race. That's number one, Elliot, which is crazy because Reddick's whole thing, his entire career here in the Cup Series, you never play him in DFS because he never gets the finishes he deserves. But things have changed.
This year, he's completely bucked that trend, leading the series and I think top 5s and top 10s, literally the regular season points leader, which I never would have expected from him, honestly.
That 15-1 that we took a couple weeks ago, that's like down to 5-1 right now. I've seen it some books, 4-1. So
I don't remember what number I got him at, but I do have a little something on that Tyler Reddick title bet. Thanks, Bet365, for those bonus bets that hopefully will make me a bit come November.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. So, yeah, throw Tyler Reddick up there.
Yeah.
I don't want to put Hamlin and Larson next. Like, I think maybe you can put them both in the A's if you want, but I like Brad better and Buescher, 8,500. Are you fucking kidding me?
That's a great price.
It's going to be chalky as hell, though, because everyone in their mother knows what's happening here. And this is like unlike Daytona, where last week you're just like you're stacking guys in the back, you're playing for differential points. Here, Darlington, like, you're going to have to play some of these guys in the front who qualify well. And I expect Buescher to be up there. I expect Reddick to qualify very well as well. And I'd even throw Keselowski to me over the 11 and the 5 as well. Just been so damn consistent here. number 2 in the total speed rankings earlier this year, 3 in green flag speed, fastest late in a run as well. So I'm all about the number 6 car as well up there. So yeah, I like it a lot. Anyone else you think for this A tier? I don't think we have to touch a ton on Hamlin and Larson. Larson was fast earlier this year. He wrecked out as he has been lately. And Hamlin's just good at Darlington. He's fired the fuck up, ready to go.
Yeah, I think the only other guy we can make an argument for the A's is Ty Gibbs. He's down at 8,300.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. I'm getting on Ty Gibbs there. Absolutely. That's a great move for 8,300. As we said, just had a lights out performance earlier this year. He's had some really good runs here in Xfinity as well. Just hasn't got the win yet. So Ty Gibbs, I like it.
Yeah, I think that definitely rounds out the A's. That's a good price for Ty, and I do agree with the RFK cars ahead of the 11 and 5. They ran so well, and you're getting a better price there too. For the Bs, I feel like probably Bell, maybe Truex, Chase Elliott, Byron, probably somewhere where you're starting off here.
Yeah, I think Bell, I'm high on Bell, 9,300. Chase right there at 9,000. I think those are really good deals for them. You're not overpaying at all. Byron, I think, belongs in the tier. Yeah, he's behind those guys, though. 10-2 is too much for Byron here. 10-2 super.
Truex at 9.5 is a little bit of an overpriced too.
Yeah, but I would almost rather pay Truex at 9.5 than 10-2 for Byron, though. You're getting, you're getting a little bit of a discount. Man, who else even belongs in this tier? Like Bubba Wallace, he had 4 straight top 10s here coming in. So 7,700 for Bubba Wallace. Again, gonna be chalky because I'm maybe not though, because like I said, I didn't know that. You knew that, so I'm not sure. But yeah, Bubba Wallace served me good last week in DFS, so I'm hoping he can do it again.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace is gonna be my next pick here. Like I said, 7,700, good price. Or like you said, I think maybe Chastain, you can make an argument for him to be here too. 8,000 is right on the line of like kind of an over/under. Do I want to pay more or less? I don't know how I feel about 8, but I think it's worthy of at least a B-, maybe a C. I don't know.
If we want to put him in the B's, I feel like we have to put Alex Bowman and Kyle. Put him in the C's if you want. If you like, but I think Bowman and Busch are kind of the next guys for me. Bowman again, 2 straight top 10s here at the Lady in Black when he has finished this race, not wrecking out. And Kyle Busch has just been really, really fast. Outside, like the one blemish for Busch is he was absolutely dog shit, finished 27th, and that's not like an asterisk mark finish or anything in the spring, was just really slow, but he has looked really good here in Darlington. He is top 8 in the next gen total speed rankings at Darlington. Just hasn't been as good in the RCR equipment outside of that first run he had there in the spring last year.
Yeah, not super strong in the intermediate total speed rankings either. I think these are kind of, I mean, the one ahead of the 48 and the 8, they're kind of interchangeable. From there, maybe the 12 and the 22 in the C's also, just kind of driver rep. A little 8,800, 8,700 more than I would want to pay for him this week for sure. But
yeah, Ryan Blaney, I think would be, I would almost maybe like him above Busch and maybe even Bowman as well. 88 is a very fine number for a guy who, listing off his total speed rankings here at Darlington by year, 13, 9, 9, 9, 6. So he's going to be a borderline top 10 car for Ryan Blaney. I don't expect Blaney to qualify necessarily well. We don't see Penske get off the truck super fast here at the Lady in Black for whatever reason most seasons as well. So, yeah, I like Blaney there. I like Logano there as well. I think that was well done.
And I think one more guy we have to put in the C's is Jones, just because Darlington's his best track. Legacy hasn't run well this year. I don't think he's going to pull off the upset victory, but I do think there'll be a point in the race where you'll look at Eric Jones. He'll be like 7th, and you'll be like, oh boy, can he do it?
Yep, Eric Jones, absolutely. Pretty good price over there at DraftKings, 7,400. If you're playing at FanTrax or FanDuel, very good prices over there as well for the kids. So, yeah, I like that. I think we're ready to drop to the D's unless you have anyone else here that you think can sneak into the back end of the C's.
No, I think we're down to the D's. I do have 4 guys in mind here if you want me to throw them out, and then we can see here. Both of the Stewart Haas guys, the 4 and the 14, ran, I think, both top 5 or 6. I think Josh Berry was 3rd. I think Briscoe was 5th or 6th. They both had really good runs here in the spring. And we already talked about both Justin Haley and Michael McDowell's prowess here. Unexpected top 10 finishes or better finishes than we would expect out of those guys. I'm not sure what order you want to throw them in, but I do think those 4 guys are probably the beginning of your D tier.
You didn't mention Noah Gragson, did you?
I didn't, but he can go in there as well. Yeah, I think did he have a good run also in the spring?
Yeah, Noah Gragson finished 14th here in the spring. And like I said, he's been arguably one of the best Xfinity Series drivers in history at Darlington. So I think Noah Gragson belongs there. Yeah, Josh Berry and Briscoe weren't really on my radar, but Briscoe was, as you kind of alluded to, finished P5, and Josh Berry actually finished P3 in that race after kind of Buescher and Reddick wrecked out as well. So I don't hate those calls at all. I think SHR in line there. Justin Haley to me, I think belongs on the board too. Yeah. And hey, what about Todd Gillen? Can he crack the D's this week? To me, I think he does, still averaging almost 27 DK points per race and top 12 in the total speed rankings at Darlington earlier this season as well. Give me a little Todd G here, 6,800. That's one of my favorite values on the board.
Yeah, I like that price. I feel like the 2024 most forgettable tier driver, Daniel Suarez, has got to go somewhere in these Ds. I think the numbers aren't sexy. He's all the way down in 27th in the intermediate speed rankings, maybe even in the Fs for the 99.
Yeah, throw him in the Fs, I would say. Not a lot of high confidence for me.
No.
Man, yeah, it's getting tough here. Damn.
There's a few guys you could. I mean, what do you think of Hemrick down at 5,300? I just saw a stat today. He's run more laps in Cup this year than any other driver.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, Hemrick finished 33rd last year or earlier this year in the spring. So I don't necessarily love him. Throw a Hocevar in there. Doesn't normally qualify super well here, but does have some good truck series starts here and has raced here in the Xfinity Series as well, and it had a top 10 as well. So yeah, don't hate Hocevar. A little
Cindric.
Yes, I was gonna say Cindy action. He finished 20th here. Had right around top 23 speed here earlier this season as well. Cindric's 6,900. Don't hate Cindric. I don't think he'll qualify super well here because I don't expect those Penske's to be fast off the truck. So I think you could get some differential there from Cindric.
Yeah, past that though, I mean, this
HB, throw HB on there.
That was my next suggestion. Was we weren't expecting to rank him at all the rest of the year. I think we got to throw him up there just in recognition of getting it done.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
His price jumped all the way to 5,900 too from that. I mean, he's higher than Haley, than Priest, than JHN, and some of these other guys too.
I would throw JHN in 5,500. I think that's like probably as deep as I'm willing to go in this pack, just because he's ran good here in Xfinity last year, led over 150 laps in that series. And if we're expecting Jones to figure this out, like he's got to pass some of that knowledge on, right?
You would think, but I think that it's more Jones loves Darlington, not that Legacy is going to, build a good car for Darlington necessarily.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying, though, especially at that low of a price, 5,500, fifth lowest on the board.
Donald also saying 6 ahead of 11. This was earlier in the, sorry, totally zoned out on the chat for about 10 minutes, but saying 6 ahead of 11. No way. Dude, it's the price tag, dog. It's the price tag. Yeah. You're getting Kez at 9,800. You're getting Hamlin at 11,000. You know how much more you can do with your lineup when you have that? And I don't think there's a huge difference between Kez and Hamlin. I just don't. I'm sorry. This week, there isn't. But Donald, I still love you too, dude. You look at that, and that's the difference between like a Buescher and like a Suarez on the board. 2,000. Yeah. That's not even quite 2,000, but like 1,100. Difference between a Chastain and a Briscoe, Yeah. Ricky Stenhouse finished 22nd here earlier in the spring. I think he can be on the board. No love for Hemrick or our boy Austin Dillon either. Oh, man, Austin. I don't really either. I just wanted to bring it up. No, I mean Austin Dillon you can throw on there. He's 23rd in the next gen total speed rankings at Darlington, so not dog shit. I don't expect a ton. Another guy that'll be going balls to the wall to make the playoffs, especially because he already won a damn race and he thought he was in. NASCAR took it from him, and he's mostly been kind of shitty at Darlington. But I remember another 2020 memory coming out of the woodwork here. P2 and damn near won the thing to open the playoffs when he made the playoffs after a Texas win. I thought that he might be a guy to shock the world. So he's always got that run in his back pocket, if nothing else. Yeah, I don't hate that. Ryan Preece finished 17th here in the spring. Yeah, wasn't fast. Was damn good here in the spring, so I think we can recognize that. Other than that, like, I hate to leave SVG off the board. Like, I think if you really want to go for him, you can. But the thing was that SVG, especially on DraftKings, like he's 6,400. That's right around the Suarez and the Dillon range or the Hocevar range. Like I'd just rather play one of those guys, I think, than SVG. I hate to leave our guy off the board, Elliot, but I think I might have to.
No, so what it is for SVG, I don't have it in front of me what races he's running the rest of the year, but I'm assuming it's all but like one or two. Again, I don't have that in front of me. My apologies. But outside of, assuming he's going to run Talladega and the Roval, those will be the two where it's like, all right, Shane, go out there, run your best, try to win. Every other race, it's going to be log laps, learn as much as you can about this car, run as many laps as you can, understand the different kinds of tracks you're going to be running on because they are going full send next year, full time. And even if you win at a road course, you don't want to be, I'm going to have to use Harrison Burton as the example because I can't think of another playoff guy before who made the playoffs and then immediately was just, way out of it at the end of it because that's probably going to be Harrison Burton. We're probably going to go to Bristol in the night race and Harrison's going to be 75 out. And they don't want that to happen with SVG next year. Go and win Chicago or something like that, not win any of the other road courses and end up just throwing out stinkers in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to want him to be better on ovals. And this is just going to be a learning experience, which means he's not necessarily going to be pushing super heavy to go out there and run well. Plus, It's a solid car, so it's going to be shitty. Anyway.
Agreed. Last person I would like to throw on the board, maybe even above the 3 car, the 47 and the 41 and the 42. Kaz Gralla, looking at it here, dude. Kaz Gralla finished 18th in this race, had top 24 speed late in a run.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like I think Justin Haley knows something about Darlington everyone doesn't. Maybe he's given a little bit of insight to Kaz Gralla, his teammate here. So, yeah, we can't sleep on the 15 car every week.
That's true. I had forgotten that it wasn't just Haley that ran well. Kaz Gralla was running up there, and he may have even – or am I thinking of New Hampshire? Was he also in contention for a top 10 in New Hampshire too? Maybe I was thinking of Haley.
Might have been Darlington. Might have been Darlington. Yeah, I'm not necessarily.
No, but I do think it was Darlington too that we were looking at Haley, but we're also looking at Kaz Gralla running in the mid-teens back there and running pretty well. So I think you're right. I had overlooked that. Cody Ware's been in that car so much lately. I kind of didn't realize Kaz had more races.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for him for that.
Yeah, agreed with you there. We got Mallory saying in the chat, Elliot knows how I feel about intentionally wrecking people. Yeah, Mal's big F1 fan.
If Austin Dillon was racing F1, they would have beheaded him. After he did that.
Oh yeah.
They literally would have brought the guillotine back out the next time they went to France. They would have beheaded him. But
just throw him in the shit river over there in France.
For real. They would have locked him in the shit river for sure.
You guys are too nice. Thank you. You guys are way too kind. Don't know why you listen to us stooges talk about racing, but we greatly appreciate it. Another $20 super chat from Charles. Thanks so much, man. We greatly appreciate that. Yeah, man. What else? Anything else for you here? I don't think I really have much on Hemi. Nothing. No love for my guy Timmy Hill and or Zane Smith here.
No, and no love for the Joy either in that 7 car. They're the back markers, and at this time of the year, unless you go out and win Daytona, you're not going to get any rep here. So,
yep, absolutely. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us. Thank you for all the kind donations in the chat as well tonight. It'll greatly go forward to our next race season coming up here. Hopefully, we can get out to the track a couple times and. Yeah, man, I'm pumped up for Darlington. Hope everyone has a great one out there. And Elliot, anything else from you, man, as we round it out here?
Hey, just be sure to stay tuned to the IBT channel. Football is back in season now, or it's coming along, college football and then the NFL right after. Lots of good football content here that you and the rest of the guys put out. Thanks for rolling down the back road with us. Sorry about my purple background going out. We're going to put my guy Kyle on the shit list for not charging it up for me this week. And best of luck with all your Darlington bets. Thanks for rolling on down with us. And we are going to start the playoffs next week. Man, I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
I love y'all. Take care. Thank you.